The Hyundai Elantra is an excellent, budget-friendly sedan. It's available with technically 3 different engine choices, front-wheel drive, and 4 different trim level options, whether we're in Canada or the States. We've got a series of different options that are available. Now, we're going to be diving in deep into the Elantra. You're going to learn everything you need to know about it. Different trim level choices, what's going on underneath the hood, first, second row spacing, cargo dimensions, and things like that. If you're looking for some specifics, like how to use the instrument cluster screen, the steering wheel buttons, or how to use the multimedia screen for connecting things like Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, check down below because I've put together comprehensive videos on that as well. Now, the Elantra technically is available, like I said, with a few different options. We've got 2 regular gas engines. There's a hybrid version of the vehicle as well. Now, I actually haven't seen the hybrid for the 22 model in Canada as of yet, so this specific video is focusing just on the regular gas engines. But when the hybrid's available, check down below for that video as well. Let's dive into it, and before we do, I want to give Ajax Hyundai a huge thank you for letting me use this car for the day to shoot the video for you today. Check down in the description below for their contact details. And I am going to hide an Amazon gift card code somewhere in this video. You're the first one to find it, claim it, and it's yours. But let's dive into it, figure out what's going on with this vehicle, and see if it's worth the buy. Now we're going to start off taking a look at the trim level choices that are available in Canada and the States, as well as the available color options. They are fairly similar, with a few key differences in a few of the trim levels. So starting off on the Hyundai Canada side, we do have technically 4 available trims, and it's the same 4 in the States, just different names. But here's the kicker. On the Canadian website, the Essential, Preferred, and the Ultimate are all under the same tab, versus the available N-Line is under its own tab. So if you want the N-Line, just search for it. It's a little bit further down on the Hyundai website. Looking at the US, you do have the 4 trim levels that you can easily select between on the same page. So it would be kind of nice if they added that other option in on Canada, because if we see here, we can just we can shift it over, we can maybe drop it down so that we do have all 4 trim levels on the same page. But here nor there, looking at the names, naming conventions in the Hyundai in Canada versus the US, slightly different. As in Canada, we're the Essential, Preferred, the Ultimate, and the N-Line, versus in the States, it's the SE, the SEL, the Limited, and the N-Line. And the feature sets for the names, they're pretty much interchangeable. So the SE in the US is going to be the Essential in Canada, Preferred will be the SEL, etc. So those names really are interchangeable. Same feature set, same wheel options, and things like that. It's just different naming conventions in Canada versus the States. There are a few key differences, though, for a few of the trim levels. Specifically looking at the Essential in Canada, so our base trim level in Canada versus the base trim level in the States. In Canada, the base Essential trim, we can get it in either the manual transmission or the automatic. Versus in the States, your SE is only available as of right now strictly in the automatic transmission. Now, if you do want that manual transmission in the States, you'd have to go for the N-Line. But unfortunately in Canada, our N-Line is strictly available in the automatic transmission. So you can't get the more powerful engine. I wish that we could. Unfortunately, we can't though. So if you're looking for a manual transmission, you have to go for the base trim level in Canada, versus in the States, you're going for that heftier 1.6 turbocharged engine instead, which I think it would make more sense to have that one in Canada, here nor there. Now, if we look at the available color choices, I actually do love the way that the US site is outlined and the way that it's laid out, just because it's easier to see the difference in the color options. Because if we look at the SE versus the SEL and the Limited, they're essentially the same colors. The only difference is that in the Limited and the N-Line, we do have the orange color there, which does look really sharp in these vehicles. But we look there also is a slight difference in one of the grays. So if we look there, so it's going to be just regular gray is the naming convention, but the actual shade is slightly different, just to give it a little bit more of a unique look, specifically for the N-Line. Then as we get into Canada, we do have a few different options that are available. So back to the States for a second, the colors are essentially going to be the exact same across the entire vehicle lineup. We've got silver, red, black, gray, white, blue, and then orange. Versus in Canada, we do have in our SE version, so the Essential version in Canada, there are 4 different color choices. The only free option in Canada for the SE the Essential is going to be just regular polar white. The red, the black, as well as the gray are going to be chargeable options. When we look at the Preferred version, so we move up level, that's where we get closer to the color choices that we saw down in the States instead. But they just name them slightly different in Canada, appealing maybe to our sense of wonder? Here nor there. But taking a look, so we do have a few options. So we've got our intense blue, there's space black, polar white, fiery red, lava orange, as well as electric shadow, and cyber gray. So essentially the exact same colors, just with different names. Looking at the ultimate version of the vehicle, that's where we get into one added color that's going to be unique, and that is going to be this Amazon gray. So it's not available in the lower trim levels, but it is available in the higher trims, so in both the N-Line as well as the ultimate version of the vehicle. But we do have a few different color choices that are available there. So a few small differences in Canada versus the US. Color choices are slightly different as well. And exterior styling is pretty unique on some of them. Like looking at the N-Line, the Limited, etc. You do get some nice body highlights and things like that that are going to be slightly different in the N-Line in comparison to a step down, which is the Ultimate. But at the end of the day, I do think both of these things look really sharp. Like we look at these front end views on both of them, and we have a few slight differences in the grille, and looking along the bottom here as well, and the bottom fenders as well, looks slightly different. But let's actually hop outside and take a peek at some exterior styling, looking at wheel choices and things like that. All right, now taking a peek at the exterior, this is the intense blue color on the Elantra, and I absolutely love the way this looks, especially as we get into some of the black moldings and things like that. That black and blue contrast is very, very nice. Now, the Elantra is only available front-wheel drive. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada or the States. Looking at the actual wheels themselves, we have a series of different options going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. We've got 15s, 16s, 17s, or 18s, with the 18s being specific for the N-Line of the vehicle. But the 17s are nice. Looking at it, this is the 17-inch tire because we're looking at the ultimate trim level. Now, the ultimate trim level versus the base will have some slight differences and things like that. Nothing too crazy though, and they still are budget friendly. It doesn't matter if you go for the base SE or the preferred in Canada, or if you go for the fully loaded ultimate, which is known as the luxury in the States. But we do have our LED headlamps there, LED daytime, nighttime running lamps. We've got our LED tail lamps as well in this specific model. Now, one thing to note, we aren't gonna have fog lamps on this vehicle whatsoever. But what we will have, nice black highlights along the side there. We do have body color moldings and things like that all throughout the front end of the vehicle. And we have a nice hood styling there as well. Now, moving towards the front end of the vehicle, as I mentioned, we do have our LED headlamps there, and we do have a nice black highlight along the bottom. Now, that highlight really pops in certain colors, but this nice black-blue contrast here is great. It does look nice in white and red and things like that as well. We do have our Hyundai badge along the front there. We have this nice black grille as well. Now, taking a peek underneath the hood of the Elantra, just on the inside, we do have a hood release there. And then if we look just underneath the Hyundai badge there, we do have our little lever, and we're gonna pull that and lift the hood up. Not on hydraulics, it's a little bit weighted, but not too bad at the same time. Now, taking a look, we do have 3 available engine choices for this vehicle. And like I mentioned earlier, this is not the hybrid. I don't have access to the 22 hybrid as of yet, so this is just going to be for the regular gas engine. But looking here, we do have this specific engine, which is the 2-liter naturally aspirated, so a non-turbocharged engine. And then inside of the N-Line specifically, that's going to be a 1.6-liter turbocharged engine instead. Power-wise, this 2-liter engine is going to push at 147 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque, while the optional 1.6 turbocharge is going to be able to push at 201 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. So a ton of power difference when you look at the 2-liter versus the 1.6. Now, if you're not really concerned about power inside this vehicle, the regular 2-liter engine is a good option. It's not super powerful, but if you're just looking for something to get you from A to B, it's your first car, whatever the case may be, this is a good option. Like I said, power-wise, it's nothing too impressive, but if you're after a bit more power while getting the same good feature set, look at the N-Line. N-Line specifically because it's got that 1.6-liter turbocharged engine. But we do have easy access, so we can easily top up our wiper fluid and our coolant. We can easily check our oil there as well. Easy access to the battery. The lamps themselves, a little bit more challenging to get to, so if you need lights replaced and things like that, you may have to run back to the dealer to get that done, unless you're fairly handy yourself. But overall, it is a fairly nice look. Now, filling up fuel inside of the Elantra is also very straightforward, so just along our driver's side door there. But one of the cool things is that this is actually a locked cap. So unlike a lot of other manufacturers where it's a capless system, capped system that's also locked as well. So definitely a nice thing. So just insert your fuel hose, fill up, lock it, and you're good to go. Now, fuel quality for this vehicle doesn't matter if you're in the 2-liter or the 1.6-liter turbocharged, regular 87 gas. So regular fuel is all you need in order to power this thing. Now, I say that with a tiny little bit of a caveat. And that caveat is the 1.6 liter turbocharged engine, because that thing technically is only 87 octane, but it's a turbocharged engine, which normally you want to give those things slightly higher fuel, like ideally an 89 or a 91, because the nature of turbocharged engines, they tend to like that a tiny little bit more. But it's definitely not necessary, especially with gas prices going the way that they are. You can get good performance just out of the regular 87. Now, hey, hope you're enjoying the video so far, and if you are, a sub to the channel would be amazing. If you're enjoying the content as well, make sure to give it a thumbs up and think about sharing it with your social networks. But let's get back to it. All right, now, as we move to the back end of the vehicle, we do have our Elantra badge along the back there. Now, in Canada, this is the ultimate trim level. Down in the States, it would be the limited version of the vehicle instead. But it's interesting because there are no badges kind of separating and differentiating. I think that's one thing I would like to see in these things, is just a nice badge to say this is actually the ultimate trim level. So here or there, I know a lot of manufacturers do it, not a necessity. You could look at some aftermarket solutions if you wanted to differentiate your look of the vehicle instead. There are some pretty cool wraps and things like that that are available. But we've got our Elantra badge along the top. We've got our Hyundai badge along the back there as well, and then we also have our backup camera just above the Hyundai badge. Now, we do have the option for the reverse park sensing system. This specific one, the ultimate trim level in Canada, has an optional technology package. The limited down in the States, that's going to be included regardless. So there are some things that are going to be different in this one than you'd find in the US model, because this one doesn't have the added technology package. One of the big ones, what's going on with that inside? So it's a 10.25-inch digital screen that's going to be optional inside of the ultimate trim level in Canada, whereas it's standard down in the States. So it's going to look slightly different there. I would say that screen is a little bit more in line with the Santa Cruz, which definitely a great look there. And if you want to look at a walk around of that Santa Cruz, check down below, because it was a fairly incredible vehicle. But taking a look along the back there, we do have those black moldings along the front in that bumper, and that is carried into the back here as well. So we've got our black moldings along the actual bumper there itself, really makes it pop. And like I said, especially with certain colors like white, that really pops even more. So the overall aesthetic look, things like that, is going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle you go for. But like I said, overall styling is fairly nice. Next up, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So typical Hyundai styling, we've got our Hyundai logo along the back. We do have our emergency access key there as well. And along the front end of the fob, we do have our lock button, our unlock button, remote start, trunk release, as well as our horn or our panic alarm button. Now we do have the flexibility of easily remote starting through our fob. We just have to lock up first, and then we're just gonna press and hold. So you can see there, the car is now remote started. In order to cancel the remote start, we just press that circle button there again just once. Single button press, and remote start is now canceled. Now, one of the cool things is that we do have the option of going through the key fob in order to be able to get into the trunk. So we do have a button right along the bottom there in order to be able to press that. So we can literally just press and hold in order to get into the trunk as well. But taking a look at the back end there, so right above the Elantra badge, so the end there, we do have a little button. So we can push that in order to get into the trunk. All right, so cargo dimensions for the vehicle are going to be showing up, and as you can see there, we actually do have a surprising amount of space in the back of this thing. Obviously not quite as much as we would find in an SUV, but you could look at other options from Hyundai if you wanted to look at that as an option. But one of the interesting things, in order to fold these seats down, it's done from the back here. So we literally have a latch there. So along the driver's side, we can just make out the one on the passenger side there as well. So we pull, we can push in through the back here, or we just hop inside in order to be able to fold the seats down instead. And we do have quite a little bit more depth when we have that second row folded down. But as you can see there, we also do have a little bit of a lip. So we've got a lip just right in the back here. So if you're storing some boxes and things like that, just keep that in mind, because we don't have a tray that is kind of adjustable the same way we'd find in some other Hyundai vehicles. Now right along the top, we can also see we do have some tethers there. So along all three seats, and then kind of hidden there, we do also have our bottom anchors as well. Now, looking at some stuff inside of the back. So we actually don't have much technology-wise back here. It's literally just the back end area. But underneath, we do have our spare tire. And it is a mini spare tire there, but we do have our jack and all the necessary components there if we want to change the tire ourselves. Bring that down, and down it goes as well. Now, inside of the second row of the vehicle, spacing actually isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, I'm 6 feet tall, and I just have enough headroom. Like, I've got maybe an inch roughly of headspace left overhead there. Now, that's with me kind of sitting forward a little bit. So with me with my head fully back, the top of my head is touching the roof. So I'm 6 feet tall, so something to think about there. And one thing to note, this second row, it's not adjustable whatsoever. So we don't have any levers, no latches or anything like that. So we can't lift this seat forwards or backwards. And looking at the back there, folding the seats down is done from the trunk area. We don't have the option or the flexibility of being able to fold them down from the inside second row, unfortunately. But taking a look here, so we do have our nice plastic finish along the side there. We do have a nice cloth look along the back, which is kind of married to the back of the driver passenger seat there as well. Now, this specific one does have the added tray in the back, which does make it look really, really nice. Without that tray, we're just looking at regular carpet flooring and things like that instead. But we do have the option for that thermoplastic rubber tray. This specific one has it's the one specifically from Hyundai. We could look at a few other options there as well. So we do have quite a few options there. But looking at the seats, like I said, fairly comfortable, and the type of seat you get is going to depend on the trim level that you're in. It's either going to be a cloth seat or a leather seat. Inside of the highest trim in Canada and the US, we are going to be in a leather seat. So super comfortable. But one of the cool things, we would have the option for heated second row seats inside of the highest trim as well. And that's the outboard seats. So the driver passenger outboard, this middle seat, never going to be heated. But we do also have our cup holders there. Always a nice touch. So we've got our 2 cup holders there. We do also have cup holders along the driver and passenger side door as well. Now, we don't have any buttons or anything like that behind the armrest, and we just have a passenger side pocket there on the back, so a nice little mesh pocket so we can easily store some things. We've got our traditional handle, we've got our hook along the top as well, and then there also is a cabin control light up overhead as well, so people in the back row can turn that light on fairly easily. Other than that, if you've got cars and kid seats and things like that, cars and kid seats, kids and car seats, that might sound a little bit better. But if you've got kids that are in car seats, we've got a few different options. So we do have a series of different anchors or tethers along the top there, and then we've got our anchors along the bottom as well. So specifically on the driver passenger seat, we don't have any of the bottom anchors there whatsoever. So if you've got front facing, rear facing seats, whatever the case may be, you'll easily be able to set them up inside of this vehicle. Now, hopping into the first row of the vehicle. So first impressions, I gotta say, like I've got a little creak in my neck right now. Slept wrong, the things that happen when you get older. Oh, but other than that, I would say that the seat is actually fairly comfortable. Headrest is really nice, and we are only a 2-way adjust for the headrest, so we don't have the option of bringing this thing forwards and backwards whatsoever. Along the side there, we are manual adjust. So as always, we've got the option of raising the seat up, lowering the seat down. We can also adjust our backrest very simply there as well. And then we've also got a lever in between our legs. We can literally bring the seat forwards and backwards quite a little bit, like literally all the way back there. This is actually kind of ridiculous. So the seat's all the way back and all the way down, and I've got like over 4 inches of headspace there. So taller people, you actually probably will be able to fit inside of this thing. Now, this specific one does have the optional sunroof as well too, so it opens up. It's not a panoramic roof like what we'd find inside of a lot of SUVs, but it is nice to note that if we wanted to open things up, we could easily do that as well. But taking a peek along our driver's side door, we do have a series of different buttons there, so our unlock, adjust our side view mirrors and things like that, our window up and down. Now we do have a nice highlight there, so we do have that same kind of cloth material with our stitching in the front here, as we did on the back doors. And we also do have a nice highlight along the front here as well, kind of contrasting nicely with our blacks. Firstly, the wheel itself is going to be telescopic across the lineup. So in, out, up and down, we can easily click that in order to lock it into place. Just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, we do have a series of different buttons there as well. So we've got our cluster, yeah, there we go. So it's illumination, so it's right up on the screen there. So you can literally adjust the brightness of that screen itself. We do also have our lane keeping system, so we can easily turn that one on or off. And we've got a button for our traction control. Inside of some of the higher trim levels, in the hybrid, etc., we would have some different options all throughout the vehicle as well. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel of the vehicle. So diving in deep, we do have 2 different options for the actual screen itself. So as you can see there, we've got our regular analog tachometer, our speedometer, and then we've also got a little cluster screen there as well to go through a few options. But let's kind of go through some of the basics. Now, one thing to point out, this is just going to be the base option for the majority of the trim level lineup. We would have the option for a fully digital screen there instead, which looks really nice. But if you don't care about all the technology, we do at least have this as the base option there. Starting off, we do have a stick on the left-hand side, and that's going to let us figure out what's going on with our running lamps. So you can see that adjust from there. I always just recommend keeping it on the auto setting. We can easily flash our high beams. We can lock it out to the auto mode there as well, which the auto mode is a great one because if the vehicle senses an oncoming vehicle, it's automatically going to dim the lights for us, and then it'll just bring them right back up to our regular brightness as well when that vehicle passes by. So it is smart there. We can easily, like I said, flash it, lock it out, etc. On the right-hand side, we can easily figure out what's going on with our wipers. So we can easily adjust from there, and then we can just pull in towards us in order to get that front windshield wiper fluid going as well. So pretty straightforward there. Starting off with a pad on the left-hand side. So this one is going to be our voice command prompt. So as of right now, so because we're in the base version of the vehicle, the prompt doesn't do anything unless we have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay hooked up. And that means that we can press this button in order to activate our assistant. So either Siri Assistant or our Google Assistant there. We have our mode button, which gives us the flexibility of changing between different things. So as of right now, we can kind of make it out along the top there. It's saying no sources are available. So we don't have Bluetooth audio and things like that engaged for this button as of right now. But this specific one would let us change up between different modes that were available. We can easily turn on our, there we go, so you can hear there, so our audio there. Quick test. All right, so that is nice. Now this is the upgraded Bose sound system inside of this vehicle, and we have a few different options for sound. But we can go up and down in order to be able to adjust the volume, or we could just press it in the middle to mute out as well. This lets us change between different presets there, so different channels, etc. We can also just do a press and hold in order to be able to seek that way as well. So you do have quite a little bit of flexibility there. Let's just mute that person out. We can hang up on a phone call. We can answer a phone call looking at the pad on the right-hand side. So the button up here is going to be the option of being able to go through different screens there. We'll get to that one in just a second. But these buttons are going to be for our smart cruise system, so that adaptive cruise control system. If your vehicle doesn't have the adaptive cruise, you would just have regular cruise in place there instead. But we can easily turn the system on right there as well. So you can see their conditions aren't met because I'm not driving. But once you're driving, you literally just push this button to turn it on. And then you can literally just press up or down in order to be able to set it. So you can set it and then either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. But what this smart cruise system will do is if the vehicle senses somebody that's in front of you, it's automatically going to slow you down. If they get out of the way, change lanes, it's going to pick you right back up to your set speed as well. We can easily resume. So if you do ever press the brake, you can just push the button there in order to resume. This is our distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? And then this one here is going to be for our lane follow assist. Now that's very different from our lane keeping assistant that's down just on the left-hand side here. So that's our lane keeping assist versus our lane follow. So our lane keep assist, what that's going to do is think of it like bowling lanes. So if we start to veer over without signaling, it's just going to gently nudge us back into our lane. But with the smart cruise system on and this setting engaged, it's literally going to be almost like a self-driving to a degree. Because let's say if you lose focus for a second, the vehicle literally will kind of take over and it'll steer for you as well, which is a great safety setting. Now there are certain conditions that need to be met for that system to activate, but it's going to go green and let us know when that system's active. Now, next one, we do have these two buttons here. So we've got the one to flip between different pages, and then this one's going to go up and down, and we can also push this one in. So the one that we're pressing up and down to move between screens, we can push this one in order to be able to reset as well. So in our fuel economy, if we press and hold OK, as you can see there, it's reset our fuel economy. We can go down for accumulated info, drive info. We've got the option for either kilometers per hour, or we can press and hold OK to go to miles per hour, etc. Dropping down, we've got a series of different drive modes there. So as of right now, we're in our normal mode, so we can switch out to our normal, to our sport mode, etc. Moving down, we're in our main screen again, so we can just push the button along the very top to move to the next page. So we've got some advanced settings there. We've got our attention level and then our tire pressure. So the attention level is an interesting one because if we start to veer over without signaling too many times, we've got a counter there, and once it gets to 0, it's going to tell us we should probably take a break. Moving down, we've got our tire pressure and then also our vehicle settings. So on our settings page, we hop in. We've got to press and hold, and there we go. So tons of different options there. We've got our base warning timer. So we've got a normal or a late timer. Our volume, do we want to have it high, medium, or low? We've got our driver attention. So we do have a few different options there. So as you go to depart a lane, it's going to let us know. And we can also get a warning. So that other one that we saw there with that coffee cup, we can turn that one off as well if we'd like to. Our forward safety, so our active assist. So if the vehicle senses a potential collision in front of us with active assist on, it's going to brake for us. Warning means we'll just get a message letting us know of a potential collision, or we can turn the system off completely if we want to. We've got our lane keeping assist there as well, our lane departure warning, and then same thing, we can turn that system off. So if you don't like the idea of that, we can literally turn the system on or off from there. So as you can see there, we can push the button down here to toggle on or off, or we can hop inside of this screen to do that as well. Our blind spot safety system, so that lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. The safe exit assist, what's going to happen is if the vehicle notices that there's a potential oncoming vehicle on either side, as we go to open the door up, it'll warn us and let us know. So we've got our active assist for our blind spot system. We can get a warning or we can turn the system off. So the warning, there is a little light that's on our side view mirrors that's going to highlight if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. We've got our parking safety, so our rear cross traffic alert. So as we go to back up, if the vehicle senses a potential collision there as well, it's going to let us know. We do have, so we're done our base settings there, so pretty straightforward. And moving to our next page, so same idea, we've got some driver assistance settings there, which we saw all of these just a second ago. So it's just a different way to get to it. We've got some different options for lights. We've got our illumination there, so we can adjust it this way, or we can also adjust it, so just off to the left-hand side there as well. So we do have a little button in order to be able to adjust the illumination or the brightness of this screen. We've got our one-touch turn signal, so if we go for a turn signal there, as you can see there, so we've got 3, we can do 3, 5, 7, etc. Or if we want to, we can also have it so that there's just a single flash. So we just push once and it flashes. So you do have some flexibility as to the number of turn signals that we get. We've got our headlight delay. So as we go to lock the vehicle, do the headlights stay on, yes or no? We've got our high beam assist there as well, which means that if we flash our high beams this way, it does lock it out for our auto mode there, which is a nice one because what's going to happen is if the vehicle senses an oncoming vehicle, it's going to start dimming your lights, your high beams specifically, and then it's going to bring them back for us again automatically. We've got some options for our doors, so auto lock. Do we want the doors to automatically unlock when we hit a certain speed or when we shift the vehicle? And when do we want them unlock? When we put the vehicle into park, when we turn the vehicle off, etc. Or we can just have them not come off. We can not have it unlock automatically. We've got our 2-button press unlock for the door itself. We've got our smart trunk, which is a great one because if the vehicle senses our key fob on us as we walk towards the back, we have to be in a specific area. It literally will open up the trunk for us. Using the smart liftgate inside of the Elantra, and really any Hyundai vehicle, is really straightforward. So firstly, you just want to make sure that the vehicle itself is locked, which it is right now. So you're out, you're just casually shopping, you're going to grab groceries and shopping for general. Christmas time's coming up, so you're grabbing your Christmas gifts. If you've got a handful of grocery bags, kids, golf clubs, whatever the case may be, you can literally just walk up to the back end in order to be able to get into the liftgate, and it's really straightforward. So as long as your vehicle is enabled with it, and as long as the actual system itself is turned on, with the key fob in your pocket, in your purse, whatever the case may be, all you're going to do is walk up to the back end, and we're just kind of hanging out and walking towards the back here, and we're just going to wait a few seconds. There you go. To be a little bit closer, but look at this. Up it goes, up it goes, up it goes. Ah! I absolutely love it. So that smart liftgate feature, you do have to be a little bit closer towards the vehicle in order for it to activate, but it is nice to know it is hands-free. We've got some options for sound. So we've got our welcome sound there as well. So as we go to turn the vehicle on, we've got some convenience settings. So our rear occupant alert. So if we go to turn the vehicle off, as you can see there, so check rear seats. So it's just a base safety setting just to make sure that we didn't forget anybody in behind us there. So it is pretty straightforward, and we do have the option of turning this thing off or on as well if we want to. That was under the convenience. Our welcome light, same idea. So we've got our driver approach lamps on the outside, wireless charging pad, we can turn that on or off, our wiper display, icy road warnings, etc. Our service interval, so as we go to adjust, so there we go. So we want to make sure that you're regularly servicing your vehicle there. We can easily adjust the frequency of our service there. If we go to take it in for service, they will reset that for us, so we can do it ourselves if we want to. We've got some different themes options there as well, so you can just kind of make out the color changes that are going to be different there. And some other options, we've got a fuel economy reset. We can go kilometers or miles per hour. We've got some different fuel economy units, temperature units, tire pressure units as well, and then we can reset. So we can literally bring everything back to the factory default screen instead. So if you've played around with it too much, you're not a fan of what you've done, you're just going to do a reset in order to bring you back to your factory defaults instead. Next up, let's take a peek at the media screen for the vehicle. Now this is going to be the base screen. We do have the option for a slightly different one inside of the higher trim levels of the vehicle, and in Canada in the Ultimate when we get the added technology package. But one thing to think about, this screen here, the base screen, actually does support wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay versus the larger screen, which is a wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay instead. Well, let's kind of go through all of the different options so you can figure out exactly what's going on with the screen. So starting off here, this is going to be the main screen you're going to be met with when the vehicle is first turned on. Obviously, looking at the very top there, we do have our menu button, so we can edit our individual widgets. We can have it for our radio, for our phone projection, for our clock, etc. We can edit out the right one. So we do have the flexibility of being able to edit out these widgets, which is definitely a nice thing. Moving back again into our menu, we've got our edit home icons, and then we've also got our QR code scan in order to get to our user manual. So literally all we're going to do there on our phone, we're just going to scan the QR code there, and as you can see there, it's letting us know that we can adjust and open up. Takes a few seconds there. Aha, daylight savings time. All right, I'll fix that one in just a second. But as you can see there, we do have our full system there as well. So we've got our QR code scanning in order to get to our user manual instead. So we can press back. We press the clock along the very top there. And as you can see, we do have a series of other options that are available there, so we can easily, adjust for daylight savings time. There we go, okay. Daylight savings time on or off. So it's off right now, which is perfect. And we can switch between our 24 or 12-hour mode there instead. So pretty straightforward. But back along the very top, series of other options there. We've got whatever mode we're currently in right now. So for media, we have a series of options. So we've got our Bluetooth, audio, AM, FM, etc. We can move between different modes easily that way as well. So quite a few options there. We've got our radio button in order to literally flip into between our radio there. We'll get to that one in just a second. All right, so we've got our all menus button there, and as you can see, we have quite a few different options that are available. So let's kind of go line by line so you can figure out exactly what's going on. So starting off with phone there, so adding a phone in is super straightforward. So as you can see, it's asking us for our preferences there. Do we want to allow hands-free calling or strictly Bluetooth audio? So if you didn't want to connect your phone, if you just wanted to listen to music, you've got the flexibility to be able to set which one you'd like. We're going to do both of them for now, so we're just going to hit OK there.
Turn Bluetooth on from your device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
And we're just looking for Elantra there, so that works, and we're going to pair up. Do we want to allow contacts and favorites to sync? As of right now, I'm going to say no. All right, and we are fully connected there. Do we want to allow CarPlay? So literally this simple. So as of right now, I literally just set this thing up a second ago. It's asking me, do I want to allow CarPlay? Yeah, we definitely want to do that. So we're going to hit yes. Do we want to connect? Yes, we want to do that. Okay, Apple CarPlay, do we want to use it? We have to turn on Bluetooth devicing, GPS information, etc. So we're going to hit next. And it gives us a few other options there as well. So same idea, we have to hit OK in order for it to work. And as you can see there, we're connected, 3, 2, 1, and it is now there. So as you saw there, super straightforward to be able to not only connect, so if we go back home for a second there, we've got our phone, and we can literally jump through our favorites, recent contacts, we've got the dial pad and things like that as well. We've got all of our information along the side there for our actual phone. Same idea, we can jump back to this main screen to jump inside of this. But looking, we've got our CarPlay along the side. If we were in our all menu, we've got Apple CarPlay there. So that's one of the great things, because this base screen doesn't have factory navigation, but by connecting CarPlay, we do have Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, and we've got Waze, and we can use them all directly through this middle screen, which is definitely a nice thing. Now, if we press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, so as you can see there, we do have our Siri Assistant as well. We can press this main button in order to get back to this summary screen. Now, one of the nice things about CarPlay is that we have the flexibility of being able to adjust this. So if we go to CarPlay, we go to Elantra, we can customize the playlist, or I should say the outline here. So let's say if we wanted to have podcasts up front along with our audiobooks, we can easily adjust that one. If you didn't want the calendar there, if you didn't want Google Maps there, or let's say if you accidentally deleted your audiobooks there as well. So we're going to go delete, remove, it's gone. If we scroll down, it does show up along the very bottom, but if you've kind of done a little bit too much, like you've played around with this a little bit too much, you can just hit reset along the very top, reset layout, and that brings us back to our factory default screen instead. So that same layout as when we first started. So it really is that simple being able to connect through, and it's really straightforward using this thing as well, because we still could use our Siri Assistant to say things like navigate to such and such, call such and such person, whatever the case may be. So quite a few options. We can get Siri to play music, etc. LiveXLive is a radio app, and it is nice to know that we've got that option. Now, not every app will work directly through Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. One of the ones I can think of offhand is Spotify. So the Spotify app won't work through Apple CarPlay, but if you're just connected through Bluetooth audio, it's the same way with the YouTube app. Bluetooth audio will work fine, but the apps themselves won't work through this middle screen whatsoever. So if you're kind of frantically going through with YouTube, with other things, trying to figure out why you can't view videos and YouTube and things like that on this screen, that's the reason why. Not every app is compatible with this screen. So something to think about there. We can press this button to go back to the main screen. We can press Hyundai to jump back into this Hyundai main screen for the media screen instead. So as you can see, they're fully connected, and removing a phone is actually very straightforward. So let's say if we were on the main screen there, we can press Setup, or we can go to Setup here instead. We can go to Device Connections, or we can go into Phone Projection, and that's going to be for either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. We can add in multiple devices. We've got our menu, or we can disconnect. So it's disconnecting Apple CarPlay. If we go into Bluetooth, we've got a series of options there as well. So Bluetooth, as of right now, it's disconnected because I just disconnected it to connect to CarPlay. I can reconnect there as well if I want to, so that'll just take a second. I'm doing this with something very specific in mind. So as you can see, so fully connected there. Pretty straightforward. If we move back, we've got a series of options. So our connection priority, if we had multiple devices, because I said no. All right, so that normally doesn't happen. If you say yes, it will download your contacts there. But if you had multiple phones connected, we could literally just do a drag and drop. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. We've got our voice command prompts and a number of other things. So privacy mode, or we can reset. So quite a few different options there. And that's how we connect an iPhone to the vehicle. And it literally is that simple. All right, now, connecting an Android device is literally the exact same process. So if you're not on this main screen here, let's say you're on this screen, we can jump into phone, we can jump into setup, device connections, and then we've got a few different options there. So we go to Bluetooth, and then we can add in a new device. And same idea, we just want to figure out what we want to be adding in. So do we want to allow phone calls? Do we want to just have Bluetooth audio? We've got a few options there. And then we connect through. So as of right now, because we're adding in another vehicle,
turn Bluetooth on from your device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
Pairing up, perfect. We want to make sure the passkeys are the same, and they are. It's going to take a second there to actually connect. And as you can see, we're connected, and the device supports Android Auto. So wireless Android Auto, do we want to connect? Yes. And look at this, look at us. Okay, and it's also asking us, do we want to allow contacts and messages, etc., but it'll come back up to that one once we finish this up. So we're going to continue setup. And on our phone, let's just deny this one for now. Perfect. But as you can see there, we are fully connected. We've got whatever recent destinations are there. We can easily search that way. We can press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel as well for our Google Assistant. And because of the nature of Android Auto, we can say, hey, Google. And that also brings our assistant to life. We've got this button along the very bottom for our traffic, our guidance options. So if you'd prefer to, mute things out, if you don't want to have, look at toll roads and things like that, you've got a few options there. We can press the bottom button there to get into our podcast, jump back into Google Maps. We've got our notification center, and we can push there for our Google Assistant. This button brings us back into this main screen for the actual Android Auto. So pretty straightforward there. We've got podcasts, we've got news, reminders, and a few other things. And now, very similar to what we saw on the iPhone side of things, we do have the flexibility of being able to adjust this a tiny little bit. So if we look for Android Auto in our settings, we can connect through. And as you can see there, we can see what car is currently connected. Previously connected vehicles, we can customize the launcher. So same what we saw on the iPhone side of things. We can literally just kind of do a drag and drop in order to drag these things wherever we'd like to. But unlike the iPhone side of things, whenever we make a change here, we actually do have to restart Android Auto on both in order for the changes to take into account. So it's not a dynamic update, but we still do have the flexibility of being able to customize this if we really wanted to. Moving back, we've got our Google detection there. So as we heard earlier, we've got our Android Auto while the screen is locked, yes or no. We've got the Google Assistant. We can disable weather if we wanted to. We can disable wireless Android Auto as well. So there is quite a little bit of flexibility available inside of this system. Now, if we go back, same idea. So we can button press to get back in one or the other. We can press Hyundai in order to go back to this main screen. Now, I want you to look at something for a sec. We press Setup there. We've got a series of options, again, going into our device connections, and we've got connection priority. So we've got two different phones currently connected, so we can literally just kind of do a drag and drop. So if you want to have one phone connected first, so if the vehicle recognizes two phones, who is going to get connection priority? You've got the option of selecting whose phone is going to be connected first. And then back into our phone projections, we do have our Android Auto connected. We can reconnect easily to the Apple CarPlay side of things if we wanted to. We go back into our connections there. We can add in another device if we want to, or we can delete. We can mark specifically this one right now. I'll show you why in a second. So we delete. It's actually just because I'm connected through Android Auto, so I would have to disable that first, but we're deleted there on the first one. And now same idea, we can delete because we can't, and we can't because we're not disconnected from Android Auto. So we have to go phone projection, disconnect, And that's the same on Apple CarPlay. So we have to disconnect from either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay first in order to go into our connections, and then we can just delete the device very simply that way as well if we wanted to. And as you can see there, it is deleted, and it really is that simple to be able to do it. So hooking up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, etc. inside of this vehicle wirelessly is super straightforward. All right, now that's the basics of connecting a phone. So moving back again into our all menus, we have a series of other options there. Our Blue Link system, so we have a few different options. We can see what's going on with our vehicle diagnostics, maintenance, or different settings there. We do have a built-in modem in this vehicle as well, so we technically could use it as a wireless hotspot, but we do need a data-only plan in order to make that happen. Moving back, we've got our Android Auto, Apple CarPlay that are grayed out because we don't have any phones connected anymore. We've got our user manual, so we can just do a QR code. We've got our notification center, so Blue Link is not active, but any notifications that come up for the vehicle, so updates and things like that would show up. We've got our voice memo there as well, so we can easily record memos if we want to, and we've got our record volume there. Moving back, we've got our radio, so we can actually get to the radio a few ways. So we've got our button along the very bottom there, so we can go to our all menu and radio, or we can just press this handy radio button along the top, and as you can see, we can go through all of our available presets there. And it is pretty straightforward. Like, let's say if we hop into our radio, we can change between different modes by pressing this button as well, so it's pretty straightforward. We can seek this way if we want to. We've got our tuning rocker there as well. So if we're changing to a station, as you can see there, so we're tuned at that station, we can press the star there to save it as a favorite. If you want to delete a saved station, you just go to the station, you press that button, and then it gets rid of that saved one. And as you can see, it can be a mix of AM, FM, Sirius XM as well, so you have quite a few different options available there. We can click on band in order to be able to change out, so we have quite a few options there. And let's just kind of move it down a little bit. So we can enter a channel if we want to go direct tune. We can scan for different options. We can go into our menu to turn the display off if we want. Button press there. We can go menu and look at our channel list. So we can see literally all the different channels that are available. And that's not just on the Sirius XM side of things. So if we go into our AM or into our FM, we go into our menu, into our station list, we can see literally every station that's currently available based off of our geographic location. And obviously this is, it's gonna take a tiny little bit longer, but as you can see there's a ton of different options that are available, and then we can easily star these things out as well. So we can save a number of presets. So if you're first getting your vehicle, I would definitely say this is where you wanna start. You wanna go to this page first, you wanna go into your station list, find all of your popular stations, and then you're just gonna star them out as necessary there. Moving back again, we have a few other options. So we've got our noise control, we've got basic info that shows up. We can delete all of our presets, or we can look at our sound settings. So we do have a few options there, so we can kind of adjust, you can kind of see it moving. So where do you want that noise to be, or where do you want the sound to be focused on? We can move it out this way if we want to kind of give it more of a pinpoint accuracy there as well. We've got our sound tuning, so we can change out our treble mid-range bass, which this is set up perfectly. This is where you want to live for incredible sound in this vehicle. We've got our driving guidance. So our parking safety priorities. So as we go to back up, everything literally will lower down in order just so you can kind of keep attention a little bit more. The beeping that we're getting here, if that drives you nuts, you can adjust that as well. You can turn it on or off. A series of different system volumes, which I think is amazing because we've got the flexibility of being able to adjust specific volume. There we go. So you can adjust specific volumes. So as you get phone calls and things like that, you can adjust how loud each individual one is. Our phone projection, so we already saw the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay side of things, but for our guidance, same idea. We can literally select how loud each individual volume is there as well. So same idea. I think that is amazing. We've got so much flexibility here. And then reset, so we can literally bring this back to our factory default settings instead. Moving back to the main screen, we can push home along the very top. All menus brings us back to this main menu again. Sliding it to the side, we've got media. So as of right now, no media connected, but if we had a USB stick with MP3s on it, if our phone was connected with Bluetooth audio, etc., we would have our different media options showing up there. And we can go through our different media options this way, or we can press the media button there as well. So as you can see, no Bluetooth audio, USB setup, etc. We've got our setup menu, which same idea, we can get to the setup menu there, or we can press setup along the right side, which jumps us into this screen. So a series of different options there. We've got our sound, which we already saw this one earlier. So treble, mid-range bass, things like that. Device connections, same idea. We've already seen these ones earlier. Phone projection is where we're going for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. We've got our display there. So as of right now, it's currently technically in the daytime mode. We can lock it out to the daytime or nighttime, but automatic means the vehicle's automatically going to adjust the brightness depending on how bright it is outside. We've got a blue light filter that we can literally schedule on as well. So if you drive later on at night, you can schedule it so that we've got a blue light filter on later on at night, just so you can sleep a bit easier. And one of the cool things is that when we go to turn the display off, we also do have a few options. So if we turn the display off, nothing's showing up. We can have it so that there's a digital or an analog clock there. So if you find the screen too distracting, you do have the option of turning it off with no options there whatsoever with an analog digital clock. We've got some different faces available. We've got our base home screen, so we can literally adjust the way that these things are. We've got our change notifications, and the same idea, we can do a reset to reset all of our display settings back to their factory default. We've got two individual buttons there, so we've got this main button, so our star button there, which if we press that, we can select what it does for us. And same idea, we've also got one for our steering wheel. So with our steering wheel button, what is it going to cycle us between? I always recommend having it cycle between all of the available options, because when we press that button on the steering wheel, it literally does exactly that. So it switches us between AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. as necessary. Moving back, we've got some general settings. So we've got our current model number, we've got some system info, so we can see our storage, our user manual, or we can reset everything. So if we're selling the vehicle, it brings us back to our factory default. We've got our date and time, which we saw this one earlier, because if we're on the home screen, we can just press the date there in order to jump into date and time. So we've got our daylight savings time, yes, no, 12, 24-hour mode as well. Language, we've got a few different options, so our English, French, Spanish, and Korean. And then we've got some options for our keyboard layout. Moving back, we've got Blue Link there, which again, feature enrollment. We do actually have to have a data-only plan in order to be able to enroll in these different features, but it's going to give us a summary screen in a second here. Moving back, we do have our Wi-Fi option. So we've got Wi-Fi for phone projection. We can renew our passkey there as well. And we've got some advanced vehicle settings. So we've got the option of recirculating the air. We've got an auto vent, and that's going to be the basics of our setup. Moving back, we've also got a valet mode. So we do have to activate Blue Link, but valet mode, what that's going to do is lock the screen out. So a valet driver can't just flip through and look at all of your different settings as well. So quite a little bit of flexibility there. And as you saw there, so we can button press to get into our radio, button press for different media sources, button press in order to be able to do a few different things as well. So we can literally have this set up as our home button now, which is cool because we press media, and that just to do, so we've got radio, we've got media, or we can press this button in order to get back to that home screen now instead. We can seek this way, we can press and hold to seek that way as well. We can jump into our setup. We've got a tuning rocker. Now inside of the base, so it's the SE or the preferred in Canada, it's going to be a regular key start. Inside of the higher trims, it is going to be just a push button start instead. And one thing to think about with that push button, we push it once and that turns us into accessory mode. So it essentially brings everything to life. So I'm not sure if you can see the screen there, but everything's alive now. You have to hit the brake and then you have to hit the stop button in order for the actual vehicle to turn on. So something to think about there, but nice look for the actual screen itself. And like I said, this is just the base screen instead. But we do have dual zone climate control inside of this trim of the vehicle as well, which is great. We've got some basics for our climate control settings. Heated steering wheel, heated front row seats, with the option in that tech package for heated second row seats. We do also have a series of other climate control settings there. So series of settings for climate. As we start to move down, we've got a 12-volt power point. We've got two individual USB ports there. One for our USB, so if we're connecting our phone to hook it up for different things, so if we want to charge and things like that, we'd use the pad off to the right. If we wanted to do different things, so if we're hooking up not just a phone, but like a USB stick with MP3s on it, or a USB-enabled MP3 player, etc., we can just plug it in that way as well. We do have the option for a wireless charging pad also, which is definitely a nice thing. It is cool seeing that in a vehicle that's such an affordable price point, some of this incredible technology. Like even looking at adding the tech package in, you're like $30,000, $35,000 at the very most to get all of this technology and all this stuff inside of this vehicle, which is definitely a nice thing. Now, moving down a tiny little bit, we do have our shifter, so our usual park, reverse, neutral, drive, and we can flip it over to go into our sport mode, which is really just a manual mode because we can flip up and down, etc., in order to easily change gears out. Now, one thing to think about, we do have a series of different drive modes. We've got our normal, our sport, and our smart mode. Inside of the base engine, so the 2-liter engine that we're in everything but the N line, I would absolutely recommend keeping it in sport mode. And the reason why is because the RPMs are going to go higher, which just gives it a sportier and a more aggressive feel. But if you don't care about that, if you're just going A to B and you want to take your time, you can go into the smart mode, which is more of an eco-friendly style mode instead. We've got our little parking button there as well, so we can see what's going on behind us there for our backup camera. We do have our electronic parking brake there. And then there also is the auto hold setting. So the auto hold setting is a great one because with the auto hold setting turned on, if we're in drive, we can take our foot off the brake completely, which is going on right now, and the car literally stays in place. So it is a smart technology from that perspective. And I love it. So if you're going on distance drives, you're in stop and go traffic specifically, you can literally have that auto hold setting on, stretch your foot out, and you're good to go. We do have a series of different cup holders there, which we've actually got a tray that we can fully remove to easily clean out. But one of the cool things is that we also have a few different ways that this is going to sit. Because we can have it up this way, we can flip it, and that just brings the cup holders up a little bit higher. So if you've got shallow cup holder or shallow bottles or shallow cups or whatever the case may be, pop cans, etc., you can have it sitting on 2 separate levels, which is fairly unique. I was in the Palisade a couple weeks ago, and that one literally had a different way to adjust these things as well. So it is kind of nice. We've got a ton of options available. We do also have a little armrest, and there's just a tiny bit of storage there, so nothing else inside of this thing, like extra USB ports and things like that. We do have an interesting little pillar handle here as well, so we can easily kind of grip on for the passenger, whatever the case may be, if things are getting a little bit too intense with all of that horsepower and torque inside of the base engine there. Moving up overhead, we do have a regular dimming mirror, so that old school kind of flip style. We do have the option for an auto dimming rear view mirror in some of the higher trims. Moving up a bit more, we do have our tow mode, our SOS, etc. We also do have, so this is a manual adjust, or manual open, I should say, for the actual sunroof cover, but we do have a few different options, so we can literally just kind of push once. Oh, let there be light. So nice. And it opens up, actually, that's interesting. Ah, neat. Okay, so it opens up quite a little bit. So you do one button press, it opens it up the majority of the way. You push that button one more time and it opens it up like an extra inch or so roughly. And that extra inch can sometimes make a difference. And then we can just single button press in order to be able to close this thing up as well. And down it goes. Up overhead a bit more, we've got some basic for our cabin control lights as well. We do have our visor, little business card holder, vanity mirror with a light that we can control ourselves, so we can turn this thing on or off very easily. And let's do the test. And this thing blocks out all the sun here as well, which is definitely a nice thing. But overall, I would say for a budget-friendly vehicle, if it's your first vehicle, if you're budget conscious and you're working yourself within a budget, you just need a car to get you from A to B, this is a nice option. The Ultimate does have a few extra features and some gizmos and gadgets and things like that as well. So if you don't necessarily want the base, you want some extra goodies, you could look at the SEL or the Preferred, you could look at the Ultimate, the Limited, whatever the case may be. Whew. All right, now time for the fun part. I'm gonna be taking this thing for a little bit of a spin and seeing how it handles. Now, this is the smaller engine technically. It's the 2-liter naturally aspirated, so the non-turbocharged engine. We do have the option inside of the N line for the 1.6-liter turbo instead. So which way you go is going to depend on how much power you enjoy out of your vehicles. Because if you're a fan of having the power, all of the power, you're definitely going to want to look at that larger engine instead. So you're going to want to look at the 1.6-liter turbocharged. It's just going to be a complete night and day difference. So power-wise is good, but like I said, in this specific one, I am actually in the sport mode right now as well, so that's going to rev it up a little bit higher. If you like a little bit more performance there as well, in all of the vehicle lineup, you do have the option of just going into a manual mode. So in the regular drive, we can just flip the shifter over in order to be able to control what gear we're in as we go. So let's actually try that one because I love me my manual mode. Oh yeah. Night and day difference. Night and day difference. Ah, so nice, so nice. And it's so simple as well. Like, I love the fact that we can kind of do it on the fly. We can shift it on the fly as well. It's nice. Oh, is this trucking us up? Yeah, okay. I'm like, oh, not gonna play chicken with a truck today. It's just not a good idea whatsoever. All right. So this is in the sport mode, and I gotta say, this thing is luckily broken in as well. So I'm gonna give it a teeny little bit of gas when I get onto the highway there. But Now, one thing to note, power-wise, this thing is an entry-level sedan. So don't jump in behind it thinking you're going to be jumping behind the wheel of a Mustang GT. Like this, the performance is not going to be the same whatsoever. But if it's your first vehicle, kid's first vehicle, you're a little bit more budget conscious, and you want to just have a good vehicle that can get you from A to B, the Elantra is a good option. If you're in that same boat where it's still like a first vehicle, but you want something a little bit more power with a bit more oomph, go for the 1.6 liter turbocharged instead. It's a night and day difference. You get like 30% more horsepower and torque as well in comparison. You will absolutely notice a night and day difference. So when I get the option of being able to drive one of the N lines, I will absolutely do that and give you my honest feedback on it. But for a good budget friendly vehicle where you don't necessarily care about getting to places too quick, this is a good option for you. Okay, a little bit of a go. It's not bad. It's not bad. Oh, that's cool. All right, so that little beeping that you got was the pre-collision assist, because there was a vehicle in front of me and I was kind of giving it some gas to move over into a lane. It let me know of a potential collision. So that's one of the cool things, because it's got the warning. It can actively brake for us as well. You do have the flexibility of turning it off, because I know some people just aren't a fan of having that pre-collision assist system and having the vehicle brake for you. You do have the flexibility to turn it off if you really don't like it. I gotta flip these bad boys on because that light is bright. All right, here we go. That is super respectable. Okay, look, man, no hands. Like, I love this system so much. Now, you do technically have to keep your hands on the wheels, because what'll happen is you will get a message saying you should put your hands back on the wheels. This lane follow system more or less is just in case you temporarily lose focus as you go. So like if you're kind of looking back, it's literally going to keep you in your lane as you go. So it is a really great system there. You can toggle that specific one off as well. So if you have the Smart Cruise system on, you just toggle the buttons on, off on the steering wheel, etc. Give it a bit more gas. You can hear it fighting with the smaller engine. But like I said, I'm in the sport mode right now, which is why we've got that higher red line for the RPM. So if you're a fan of that sportier performance, sport mode is where you want to be. And I say that literally all the time, like especially in smaller engines, you're gonna wanna be in sport mode the majority of the time. One of the downsides of sport mode is that you will use up a little bit more gas though in comparison to just your regular drive mode instead. Yeah, now I gotta say that was a pretty nice drive overall. Like I said, it's the smaller engine, so it's the 2 liter naturally aspirated engine, but it is nice to know that it's at least got a good amount of power. And that was a look at the 2022 Hyundai Elantra. What did you think? Like I said, if you're looking for a great budget-friendly vehicle, something to get you from A to B, this is a good option. You want a little bit more performance, go for the N line, and you do have the option for the hybrid as well. So check down in the description below, because I have put a direct link to this specific build with all of the details. And then as I get in front of the hybrid or other options, I'll drop those links down below as well. But if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your social networks. Think about subscribing because it helps the channel grow. And until I see you next time, take care.